I've had Cecil's cat for 5 years. But tonight it suddenly bit me as I walked through the door. Sitting in the car on the way to the hospital, I suddenly realized something: some cats just can't be tamed. The same goes for people. When I got home, I asked Cecil for a divorce. He furrowed his brow, confused. Just because the cat bit you? Because of that. Are you sure? Our 5th wedding anniversary is in a month. Cecil held the cat in his arms, abstinently playing with its tail. Ever since we got married, Cecil rarely came home, and he could hardly be said to have spent much time with the cat. Even though I was the one feeding it all the time, the cat only liked Cecil. I averted my gaze from the cat and calmly said, "I've made up my mind. I'll leave without taking anything. Once you sign, we can finalize the divorce tomorrow." With that, I handed the divorce papers to Cecil. He glanced at the documents on the table, then looked up at me with frown. He asked in disbelief, "Chaya, just because Bailey bit you, you're going to divorce me and give up on 5 years of marriage?" Bailey was the name Cecil had given the cat. Hearing him say its name, Bailey mewed softly, its tone affectionately different from the warning growls it always directed at me. I nodded. Because of it. That was the truth. It was thanks to Bailey that I finally made up my mind to ask Cecil for a divorce. Yesterday, we began filming for a new movie that the director suddenly told me, "You've been replaced." The actress replacing me was someone I knew had recently been frequently linked to Cecil in the tabloid. So much so that it was impossible not to notice. On top of that, the May family was one of the investors in the film. So without thinking, I called Cecil. "Did you have me replaced?" Cecil didn't seem to care. "Yeah, it was me." His tone was cold and indifferent, and his reasoning even harsher. "The May family doesn't need you to earn money. Just stay at home and take care of Bailey." With one offhand comment, Cecil dismissed all the effort I had put into that movie. My assistant forcibly took me home. As I was changing shoes in the entryway, Bailey suddenly rushed over and bit me. Looking at the wound on my arm, my emotions crumbled. I'd taken care of Bailey for 5 years. Yet it still saw me as an enemy. It hated me, never letting me get close. And it would even attack me if I was careful. Cats are like that. And so is Cecil. 5 years of marriage. And he remained distant, never once publicly acknowledging our relationship. To the outside world, he was still the unmarried heir of the Who family. And I was just a fading celebrity. There was no connection between us. The only time we were ever linked was when a photo of us accidentally taken together surfaced. And his rumored girlfriend accused me of being the third party in their relationship, dragging me through a scandal. It had enough of this life. I didn't want to keep being a free babysitter for a cat that couldn't be tamed, and I didn't want to keep living this hidden, shadowy life with Cecil. We didn't have children, nor did we have shared assets. So divorce would be simple, just like how our marriage had been. We simply got our marriage certificate and had a meal with his parent. Cecil's only condition for agreeing to marry me was that our marriage had to remain a secret, so we had no wedding, no ceremony. After finishing the divorce procedures, Cecil gestured for me to get into the car. "Grandma wants to see you." For a moment, I felt a wave of déjà vu, as if time had rewound 9 years. Then, my family had just gone bankrupt, and my parents had passed away. Relatives avoid me like the plague, terrified that I would cling to them. I was wandering the streets with nowhere to go when Cecil suddenly appeared. Like a god, when you're in utter despair, even the smallest gesture of kindness gets magnified. For a year after that, even when Cecil hurt me and made me sad, I still remembered the day he took my hand and said, "Come home with me. Grandma wants to see you." Grandma may pitied me and let me stay with the May family. When reached adulthood, she unexpectedly brought up the engagement between Cecil and me. "Your marriage was arranged when you were children. But I still want to ask you first, are you willing to marry Cecil?" My face turned bright red. I'd always known about the engagement. Back when my family hadn't yet gone bankrupt and I was young and naive, I used to dream of marrying Cecil. But after everything that happened, I didn't dare dream like that anymore. I still like Cecil more than ever. But I knew very well that I was just an orphan living under someone else's roof. How about you ask Cecil first? I knew Cecil had someone he loved. So this marriage was destined to be void. But what I didn't expect was that Cecil agreed. It wasn't until the second month of our marriage that I accidentally found out why. You didn't like Chaya. Why did you suddenly marry her? The person speaking was Cecil's close friend. Cecil was lounging on the sofa, playing with his cat, and casually replied, "It doesn't matter who I marry. Zadie was the person Cecil loved." I pursed my lips and took 2 steps back. Before I left, I overheard Cecil say, "Just a marriage of convenience. I won't touch anyone but Ailey. Besides, I've always seen Chaya as a little sister." Teddy mocked him. "Marrying your own sister? That's disgusting." Back at the May family's house, I slipped the divorce certificate into my bag and went alone to see Grandma May. If it weren't for her, neither Cecil nor the May family would have agreed to the divorce so easily. "Thank you," I said. Grandma May patted my hand, her expression heavy with guilt. "If I hadn't pushed for your marriage back then, you wouldn't have suffered so much." "I'm sorry. It's my fault." "Iridios. I had Cecil give you Bailey, thinking he'd visit you more often because of the cat." Grandma May didn't know that the only reason Cecil cherished Bailey was because Ailey had given him the cat. I lowered my head and squatted beside her, remaining silent. She sighed again. "If your child were still here, maybe things would be different at that." I immediately interrupted. "It's all in the past." I didn't want to dwell on the topic of that child. As I was leaving, Grandma May handed me a card. I knew I couldn't refuse. I planned to give it to Cecil for him to return to her. When I found him, he was speaking with Aunt May. Chaya's had it too easy in the May family, never knowing any real hardship. After a few days of struggling outside, she'll come crawling back, begging me to reconcile. Standing behind him, I forced a silent smile. It wasn't until Cecil turned around and saw me that his expression changed slightly. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent, smiling. I handed him the card from Grandma May and left without a word. After taking a few steps, I couldn't help but turn around and look at him. "Cecil, I'm not coming back." Cecil's narrow eyes glanced at me with a sneer. "Don't be so sure." I smiled softly and said nothing more. After all these years, Cecil still didn't understand me at all. After leaving the May family, I immediately bought a ticket to Harbor City. Then, I was going to pursue the dream I had when I was 18. I'd been in the entertainment industry for many years, and the actors who started with me had either made it to the top or fallen completely off the radar. Meanwhile, I had remained utterly unknown. Back in school, teachers praised my classic beauty, saying I had talent and potential. But when they talked about me in later years, all that was left was a string of sighs, lamenting my wasted potential. During one visit back to my alma mater, I overheard a teacher say, "She had such a promising start, but she threw it all away." I used to think no one could live a perfectly smooth life. With gains, there must be losses. Like Cecil once told me, being Mrs. May isn't that easy. He was right. It wasn't easy at all. The first thing Cecil asked of me after we got married was to quit the industry. I tried hard to fight for myself. Acting is my dream. But in Cecil's eyes, my dream seemed ridiculous. He looked at me with undisguised mockery. "Chaya, I don't want to hear that word come out of your mouth again." I don't even remember how I convinced him to compromise. Only that Cecil left that day very displeased. He said, "If you want to keep acting, you'll have to follow my conditions." Because of his condition, I could only take small, insignificant from then on. Just being able to continue acting was enough. But later, the paparazzi caught a photo of me and Cecil together, and I was mistaken for a third party by Cecil's then rumored girlfriend, which me being cursed out on the trending list. "Can we make our relationship public?" I begged Cecil to clear things up for me. "We are married. Why should I be called a third party? I don't want to keep enduring the curses and insults from netizens." Cecil didn't even glance at me. Celebrities getting attacked online is common. If you can't handle it, it just proves you're not cut out for this industry. Maybe you should take this as a chance to see things clearly and leave the industry early. After that incident, I was essentially forced out of the industry. I tried, but no director was willing to work with an actor tarnished by scandal. Not long ago, I finally secured a small role, only for Cecil to have me replay. I thought my chances of appearing on screen were over. But the day after I asked Cecil for a divorce, I suddenly received an audition invitation from a director in Harbor City. His name was Baldrick, a very young newcomer director. When I found the address from the email, I introduced myself to the staff. "Hello, my name is Chikiafa." The staff member looked up and had an exaggerated expression. He froze for a moment. "Abba," he said something else in Cantonese that I didn't understand. But whatever it was, it made everyone stop and look at me. Then, Baldrick walked out. His face was striking and bold, easily rivaling that of male celebrities. I couldn't help but think probably shouldn't be a director. He should be using his looks to be an idol. In Baldrick, Chaya. The audition went smoothly, and I stayed in Harbor City to prepare for the film. The staff member I met that day was named Colbert. After we became familiar, my curiosity got the better of me. "What did you say in Cantonese the first time we met?" Colbert spoke with a Hong Kong accent. "Nothing much. Abba, your lead actress is here. A boss has been preparing for this film for a long time, and he's been waiting for you. He sent you a lot of emails before, but you never responded. Before, my assistant managed all my emails and social account, and every job offer went through Cecil's approval. It wasn't until after the divorce that I finally had the right to check my own emails and choose my own work." Chaya. Colbert leaned in closer, conspiratorially. "Actually, a boss is a huge fan of yours." Before he could finish, a bright light shone from behind us. It was Baldrick, bringing us a late night snack. Colbert didn't even finish his sentence before he ran off at the smell. Baldrick saw that I hadn't moved and came over to ask, "Aren't you going to grab something to eat?" I shook my head. "Not hungry." The night breeze in Harbor City was salty and humid. Baldrick sat down next to me. "Aren't you going to eat?" He smiled and shook his head. "I'm not hungry either." I suddenly remembered what Colbert said and shot a quick, awkward glance at Baldrick. Though it was subtle, he still caught it. He frowned slightly, seemingly confused, and glanced back at Colbert before turning to ask me, "What did Colbert just say to you?" I hesitated for a moment before replying. "He said you're a fan of mine." "Yeah," Baldrick admitted without hesitation. "I am." I was taken aback. I had thought Colbert was just joking. "I've seen all of your work," Baldrick added. And at that moment, I couldn't help but agree with Colbert's die-hard fan comment. Thinking about all those films of mine that had been labeled as flops, I sheepishly rubbed my nose. Baldrick seemed to see right through my thoughts. "The movies were bad, but your performances were great. Choya, you're a really good actor." The sky was overcast, with no stars in sight, but in Baldrick's eye, I felt like I could see a glimmer of starlight. After my parents passed away, it had been so long since anyone had affirmed me like that. I stood there, dazed for a long time. During the 5 years I was married to Cecil, I was constantly being denied. I didn't achieve much as an actor, and Cecil told me I was cut out for it, urging me to leave the industry. As a wife, I couldn't win my husband's heart, and my mother-in-law blamed me. I should look for the problem within myself. It wasn't until I left the May family that I suddenly realized I wasn't as terrible as they had made me out to be. I was good, and someone else could see that. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kind of emotional videos." In Harbor City, they take formality seriously. After a grand opening ceremony, the production officially started filming. The next time Cecil called me, it was late at night after a shoot. He sounded hoarse, as if he had been drinking, and asked, "Where are you? Do you know Bailey is hurt?" I never thought he would call me again. I was stunned for a moment before reminding him. We're divorced." After a pause, I added, "If you're too busy with work to take care of Bailey, you can send him back to the old house or hire an Annie to look after him." I figured Cecil had sobered up a bit. He explained, "I drank too much. That's why I called. Sorry for disturbing your rest. I quietly responded with a simple mem. Walked to the window and told him seriously. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kind of emotional videos. Don't call me again." After that, I hung up the phone and blocked his number. Filming had been exhausting these past few days. After a shower, I fell asleep almost immediately. When I woke up the next morning, I saw a message in the group chat announcing that filming had been paused. I woke up instantly and immediately called Baldrick. I called several times, but he didn't answer. So I dialed Colbert instead. Shaya. A boss said filming is paused for the next couple of days. The investors suddenly pulled out, and a boss has gone to negotiate with them. For some reason, I suddenly thought about the call I received from Cecil last night. It was that I was overthinking. When I remembered what he said when I left the May family, like as had it too good in the May family. Never faced any hardships. When she suffers a bit, she'll come begging me to reconcile. Felt a chill in my heart. Later, I finally got a message from Baldrick. It was just 2 words: open the door. I quickly put down my script and ran to the door. Before opening it, I was still thinking of asking him what exactly had happened. But the moment I saw Baldrick's carefree smile, the questions died on my lips. Strangely enough, he seemed to have some kind of magic. Just seeing him made all my anxiety and unrest melt away. Colbert said you didn't eat dinner tonight. You mentioned wanting to try this place before, and since I happened to pass by, I brought you something. Baldrick handed me a takeaway box. I took it and immediately smelled the aroma of black chicken soup. Colbert had once told me there was a place in Harbor City that made excellent black chicken soup, but I hadn't had the chance to try it since I was always busy with filming. Thank you, I said. And I noticed that the expensive watch Baldrick usually wore was missing. Not only that, but his clothes and shoes had been swapped out for cheap street market items. Shirt even had a $15 price tag still stuck to the collar, and his car keys were nowhere to be. After a moment of hesitation, I asked, will filming start again tomorrow? Not yet. Baldrick paused briefly before continuing. Everyone has been working hard lately, so we'll rest for another couple of days. He sold his car, his watch, and even possibly his clothes and shoes. If we couldn't resume filming, it meant the funding issue hadn't been resolved. Baldrick, can you do me a favor? Since he was from Harbor City and knew the area better than I did, I asked him to help me find a reliable pawn shop. My mother's bracelet was the only valuable item I had left when my family went bankrupt. The bracelet had been used to pay off debts. It ended up back in Cecil's possession the day after the paparazzi caught him in a scandalous photo with a rumored girlfriend. I received the bracelet. I guess Cecil saw it as compensation for me. Over the years of marriage, it received many such compensation. But when I left the May family, the bracelet was the only thing I took with me. Its value had increased considerably over the years. 9 million. Is that enough? I handed the card to Baldrick. You sold the bracelet for me? Baldrick held the card, staring at me in disbelief, looking both surprised and flustered. You did this for me? Yui interrupted his train of thought. Not for you, for the movie. For myself. Baldrick, you know how long it's been since I last acted, right? It's not that I didn't want to, but no one would hire me. Even when I reached out, people turned me down. So, Baldrick, do you understand what this movie means to me? Baldrick's sports car had been replaced by a second-hand motorcycle. He sat on it, long legs touching the ground, his expression shifting from slightly disappointed to resolute and serious. Yeah, Baldrick said as he thumbed the card in his hand. I won't let you down. I believe you. I smiled at him. I believe in myself too. In the end, Baldrick returned the card to me. We don't need that much. 3 million will be enough. Back at the hotel, after thinking it over, I bought a ticket back to North City before going to bed. Just before the flight, I received a text from Baldrick. There's a fireworks show at Victoria Harbor tonight. Want to go? I replied to him on a plane, heading back to North City for something. He replied quickly, filming resumes tomorrow. Can you be back? He'll be back tonight. After a moment, I added maybe you'll even make it in time for the fireworks show. I'll wait for you. Smiling, I turned off my phone without replying to his last message. So Cecil was probably at the office. Hello, I'm here to see Cecil, the receptionist, who hadn't seen me before. Without an appointment, I can't take you upstairs. Upon hearing me mention Cecil's name, a man in a business suit behind her gave me a quick once-over, then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kind of emotional videos. Nowadays, women with a bit of good looks just want to latch onto a rich man. She probably doesn't know her mister, who always has plenty of beauties around," he muttered. His voice was loud, but just enough for me to hear. I glanced at him without explanation, hesitating whether to pull Cecil out of my blacklist and set up a meeting. Just then, I looked up and saw Cecil's assistant stepping out of the elevator. He noticed me too and quickly jogged over. "You're here to see Mr. All right, let me take you up." I nodded. Cecil's expression showed some surprise when he saw me, but he quickly composed himself. His lips curled into a smirk, laced with mockery. "Figured you'd come back?" I didn't say anything. I walked over and placed a card on his desk. When I left the May family, I took my mother's bracelet. I've already returned some of the money, and this card has the rest. Cecil frowned, glancing at the card, then raised his eyes to look at me. "Where did you get the money?" He knew that when I left the May family, I had nothing but the bracelet. I had no money. "I sold the bracelet." Cecil looked incredulous. "You sold your mother's keepsake? That's the only thing she left you?" He scoffed, the mockery in his tone even more apparent. "Shia." Cecil was always used to acting superior in front of me. "For the sake of the years we've known each other, if you come back now, you can still be Mrs. He assumed I cowed and make it outside, though I was crawling back to him. I was probably just a pampered canary fit for a gilded cage. He had never believed in me. "No need." I refused him in a calm tone. But Cecil was still furious. He threw my card onto the floor. "Chaya, you came back just to return money?" I didn't understand what he was so angry about, but I nodded. As I turned to leave, Cecil suddenly asked, "Do we really need to be so clear about things?" I replied seriously, "I've already paid you back the money I owed. From now on, or even. Cecil sneered. "The May family raised you for so many years. Do you think this little bit of money makes us even?" I froze. When I realized what he was implying, I suddenly felt angry. The year my family went bankrupt, I was in my last year of high school. My tuition had already been paid, and I still had money on my meal card. So for that half year, except for occasionally eating at the May family during holidays, I didn't cent of the May family's money. Later, when I went to university, I had a scholarship and never troubled uncle or auntie to cover any cost. After graduating, we got married. You gave me a card. And when we divorced, I returned it to you. You know that I didn't touch a single cent in it. I picked the card up from the floor and placed it back on his desk. "I've already repaid you for $8 million, which covers the costs of my food and accommodation at the May family over the years. You bought back that bracelet for about 5. Right? I haven't taken any advantage of you or the May family. I don't owe you anything." I smiled, looking into his eyes. "In fact, if you really think about it, you owe me much more. But all of that, I gave willingly. I'm not asking you to repay it." With that, I turned and left. Behind me, Cecil's voice, full of anger, echoed, "I owe you. Tell me what I owe you." I didn't answer, nor did I look back. As I stepped out of his office, I saw the man who had made that snide remark at the reception earlier. He was now deferential, pressing the elevator button for me with a smile and sending me off politely. By the time I landed in Hong Kong, it was already dark. I was about to send a message to Baldrick when I looked up and saw him already waiting at the arrival gate. "How did you know I was on this flight?" "Just guess," Baldrick replied, sitting on the back of his second-hand motorcycle. I suddenly said, "You should have sent me a message. That way, you wouldn't have had to wait all day at the airport." The roar of the engine and the rushing wind drowned out my voice. Baldric didn't hear it. The night was too noisy, too lively. Video's Victoria Harbor was bustling with people, and fireworks bloomed in the pitch-black sky. These fireworks are beautiful. I heard a faint voice near my ear. You're beautiful too. The film wrapped up a year later. Throughout that year, I often received strange phone calls and text messages. Every time I answered, the other end was silent. The texts were just casual greetings or words of concern. I had a hunch that Cecil was the one sending them. I blocked the numbers every time. Sometimes, I really didn't understand what Cecil was thinking. He hadn't cared much about me before. But after the divorce, he suddenly seemed interested. Chaya, congratulations on finishing the film. Grandma told me some things I didn't know before. Let's set a time to chat. Okay? A trending news notification popped up, another gossip piece about Cecil and an up-and-coming actress. In the past, anything involving Cecil, I would click on and read through carefully. He rarely contacted me. And when I messaged him, he hardly replied. So back then, I could only follow the gossip to know what he was up to. But now, I simply swiped the notification away, calmly deleted his message, and blocked the number again. After packing up and stepping out of the dressing room, I happened to see Baldric and Colbert. I didn't know what Colbert had said, but Baldric lowered his head, smiling softly. When he looked up again, he took the cigarette Colbert was about to light. Colbert pouted and complained. What? You won't even let me smoke? Baldric casually tossed the cigarette into a nearby trash can. We're about to have dinner, and Chaya doesn't like the smell of smoke. After dinner, you can smoke it, huh? Colbert raised an eyebrow and teased him. You're acting different around Chaya. Do you like her? Baldric smiled without denying it. So Colbert continued. If you like Chaya, you should go after her. A lot of people like her. If you don't take the initiative, someone else will. My heart skipped a beat, and I didn't watch my step. After leaving the hospital, Baldric took me to the hotel. He stopped at the entrance and asked, Can I help you inside? My ankle was badly twisted, and I could barely stand. Director, if you don't want to help me in, I might have to crawl in myself. Baldric chuckled and carried me inside. As he went to the bathroom to get me a towel, I suddenly recalled how many times before Baldric had always stopped at the door to my room. He never easily entered any actress' room. Someone had once joked, there are a lot of paparazzi around here. Director really values his reputation. Baldric explained. I don't really care for myself, but it's hard for actresses to clear up rumors. No one in the crew had ever said anything bad about him. It's no wonder that the big families respected and trusted him. Hearing a knock on the door, I called out for Baldric to answer it. Who is it? I turned my head just in time to see Cecil's surprised face at the door. He furrowed his brows and gave Baldric a once-over before his gaze shifted to me. In a questioning tone, Cecil asked, What were you two doing in the room? Then he added, Chaya, have you forgotten your place? I had always hated it when Cecil used the condescending tone with me. When I liked him, I could convince myself to tolerate it, but now I felt there was no need to endure it any longer. What place? I maintained my stance and coldly asked him, Have you forgotten? It seemed to suddenly dawn on him that we were divorced. His face froze for a moment, showing a hint of bitterness as he asked, Chaya, can we talk? There was much left to talk about between us, but I knew Cecil's character. If I didn't agree, he would keep pestering me. He's the type who wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. All right, what do you want to talk about? Cecil didn't respond immediately, instead glancing at Baldric. Make him leave. I chuckled coldly. I knew he didn't want anyone to know about our relationship. I looked at Baldric. Before I could say anything, Baldric, being considerate, spoke up, then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. Call me if you need anything. He turned and left. As the two of them brushed past each other, their glances at each other were unreadable. The door closed softly behind him. I asked, See, what do you want to talk about? Grandma told me we once had a child. Cecil said anxiously. Is that true? If he didn't believe May's grandmother, I doubt he would have come all the way to Hong Kong to see me. Yeah, it's true. I hadn't told him before because I knew he didn't care. Now that he knew, there was no point in hiding it. I asked him, "Did you come to Hong Kong specifically because of the child?" Cecil seemed He looked at me and shook his head. Yeah, and no. Chaya, after you left, I've been thinking about you a lot. His words made me laugh unexpectedly. Mildly deep in the sorrow in his expression. Syria, I just didn't realize before that I liked you. Whether you believe me or not. You've been in my heart for a long time. I continued to laugh, just as he had once mocked me countless times. Cecil, don't hold on to things that are already gone. Whether it's me or that child. The child I had with Cecil was conceived by accident. Cecil had said that he would never touch any woman other than Ailey. That time with me only happened because he was drunk. And I had a severe cold, too weak to resist. When I woke up the next day, Cecil had already left. I endured the soreness in my body, got up, took more cold medicine, and eventually passed out again. It wasn't until a few months later when my grandmother noticed something unusual and took me to the hospital that we found out I was pregnant. That time during New Year, you were in a bad mood and accidentally pushed me into the water. You thought I could swim and would be able to get out on my own, so you just walked away. But it was winter, and my clothes were heavy. After getting pregnant, I was frequently sick, and it took all my strength to barely make it ashore. When I went to the hospital later, the doctor said I had stayed in the ice-cold water for too long and advised me to give up the baby. That day, I had intended to tell you I was pregnant and ask whether you wanted to keep the baby. Cecil's pupils trembled. His lips moved slightly. He stared at me for a long time before saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Whether he knew or not no longer mattered, given his attitude toward me at the time. Even if he had not, I doubt he would have kept the baby. Fine. It's all in the past. A child not expected by their parents might be better off never being born. I looked at him and smiled. Is there anything else you want to say? Could you leave? I need to rest. Cecil could tell I was asking him to leave. He slowly turned around. Just as he was opening the door, I called out to him. He quickly turned back to look at me, eyes full of expectation. Baldric should be outside. Could you ask him to come in? Thank you. I watched as the light in Cecil's eyes gradually faded. He gave a self-mocking smile. His name isn't Baldric. Cecil glanced at Baldric, who had just arrived, then continued. His last name is William, and he's the only son of the Williams family in Hong Kong. You've known him for a long time. Has he ever told you his real name? Seeing Baldric's expression freeze, I knew Cecil was telling the truth. After Cecil left, Baldric, rather abashed, slipped me onto the bed. I said, "Thank you. Good night." But a boss remained by my bedside, showing no sign of leaving. He asked me, "Chaya, is there anything you want to ask me?" I shook my head, then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. Everyone has their secret. And besides, my relationship with Baldric was to the point where we needed to be completely honest with each other." The movie premiered in both Hong Kong and the mainland at the same time. After I finished my work in Hong Kong, I returned to biking. Everyone thought the film's success was a stroke of luck, but I had known from the start that it would be a hit, and that I, as the lead actress, would make a beautiful comeback. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sold my mother's bracelet. I saw Boz again on the third day after I returned to biking. He suddenly appeared outside my family's home, dragging a suitcase, cautiously asking me, "Chaya, can you let me stay for 2 days?" I suddenly recalled the night I left Hong Kong when I went to say goodbye to him and Colbert. I overheard him saying to Colbert, "She is going back to biking." Colbert rolled his eyes at him. "You still haven't confessed to Chaya. I'm afraid it'll be too abrupt and upset her." "You're so smart. But when it comes to Chaya, you become clueless." A boss sighed. "I don't know. I'm always overly cautious with her. Constantly worried about gains and losses." He glanced at the beer Colbert handed him and shook his head. "No. Chaya doesn't like drunk." Colbert said, She's not here. Even if she's not, I can't drink. I'm afraid that if she finds out, she'll dislike me. Looking at a boss standing outside my door, I silently smiled and asked him, "Why did you come to biking?" A boss replied, "I came to pursue you. To tell you that I like you." His sudden straightforwardness left me at a loss. My first reaction was to pretend I hadn't heard him, trying to avoid the situation. A boss seemed to see right through me, then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he sighed, "You never used to watch these kind of emotional videos." Choya, I knew you would react this way, which is why I was afraid to confess my feeling. You're so bold when it comes to work decisions, but when it comes to matters of the heart, you avoid them. I consulted a doctor friend, and she said you behave like this because you've been hurt before in relationships. So you protect yourself by avoiding them. Shaya, I didn't come to biking expecting you to reciprocate my feeling. I just came to tell you that I like you. You don't need to break out of your protective shell or force yourself to like me. My liking you is enough. Chaya, all you have to do is accept it. Enjoy it. He paused and then softly apologized. Am I scaring you? I had prepared so many things to say before coming to biking, but when I saw you, I forgot everything. Looking at his nervous expression, I suddenly remembered how he used to be humble pursuer, the arrogant one being pursued. I smiled, stepped aside, and let him in. When the crew called me to check the trending topic, a boss was asking what I wanted to eat. Chaya, how you want to handle it? The crew will cooperate as much as possible. When I opened my phone, the internet was already in an uproar, with a flood of insults directed at me. The incident from a few years ago, where Cecil's rumored girlfriend had accused me of being the third party, had been dredged up again by someone with ulterior motives. Why is someone with such poor character still making movies? Honestly, the movie's success is mainly due to the director and script. Anyone could have made it big in the lead role. Can Chaya get out of the entertainment industry? In the past, I couldn't clarify things because my account was managed by my assistant. But now that everything is under my control, I don't need to remain silent and suffer unjust accusation. As I was about to post a statement to clear things up, I suddenly saw the announcement Cecil had just Mada Kahia and I are married. After all these years, he finally decided to make our marriage public. But I felt no ripple in my heart. I deleted the text I had prepared and re-edited the post, sharing the duration of my marriage to Cecil, and the date of our divorce. Instantly, the public opinion online flipped. I looked at Abba, who was preparing dinner, and suddenly said, "Abba, I've been divorced." "I know," he softly replied, continuing to handle the ingredients. At that moment, I knew I didn't need to explain anything more to him. During dinner, Abbas confessed his secret to me. My dad doesn't support me making movies. He forbade me from using the Williams family connections, and wouldn't allow anyone around me to lend me money. He's trying to force me to return home and take over the family business, claiming I have no talent for filmmaking. I have to admit, he's somewhat right. I really don't have any talent. I looked at him, confused. What nonsense are you talking about? The big families all say, you're a genius director. Abbas shook his head. That's because of you. You were the lead actress, and that's the only reason I could make this film successful. Chaya, some people can't see you're brilliant, but they've gilded me. The one who borrowed a bit of your light. That night, while lying in bed, I saw Abbas' announcement that he was quitting the industry. He wrote I was never a genius. The film's success is because my lead actress played the role of my lead actress. After winning awards for the film, I began receiving more opportunities. On my way home after visiting some senior colleagues, I suddenly noticed security guards in my neighborhood, trying to catch a small cat. I was reminded of Bailey. The kitten looked just like Bailey. Even the bib around its neck was exactly the same as the one I had bought years ago. Realizing something, I stepped forward to check. As soon as the cat saw me, it started meowing loudly and escaped from the net to run to my feet. After seeing the tag on the cat's collar, I was sorry it was Bailey. I asked the security guard, "What are you planning to do with it?" and gave me a helpless smile. They didn't need to say anything. I understood. If I let them take Bailey away, she probably wouldn't survive the night. In the end, I called Barrett. I took Bailey to Cecil's place. Coincidentally, just as I arrived, I saw someone leaving Cecil's family home. He was Kenny. He looked disheveled and defeated. A far cry from the man I used to know. I suddenly remembered the gossip hit recently about him trying to crash a wedding in Yen City with a toy gun. When he hurried over and said, "You know, Kenny, he got into trouble, and his family's patriarch is sending him abroad. So, today, he came to say goodbye." I wasn't interested in his friend's affairs. I handed Bailey over to him and said, "Bailey got lost. I happened to come across her on my way back." Bailey had always been mischievous. She had gotten lost before when I was taking care of her. I thought this was just another one of those times. But Cecil was dead. Pushed Bailey away. "She didn't get lost," Cecil said impatiently. "Ticking Bailey. I don't want her anymore. You divorced me because of her. And since you hate her, I don't want her either." He looked up at me. "Chaya, can we start over? Dinios this time. Without Bailey. We can live a good life together." I looked at Bailey, who was trembling with fear at his feet. And my heart grew cold. Although I didn't know what Bailey had been through to end up like this, I knew the culprit had to be Cecil. Then naturally took the phone away. Smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." Since he didn't want Bailey anymore, there was nothing more to say between us. I took Bailey and left. While driving, Bailey kept lying on my lap. No matter how many times I tried to push her off, it suddenly became very clingy, trying to curry favor with me just like it did with Cecil before. But even so, I still didn't plan to keep it. I was soft-hearted yet ruthless. I wouldn't forgive anyone or anything that had hurt me, whether human or cat. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." Amy came out of the yard when she saw my car. I met Ailey at a movie premiere. She had waited a long time for me backstage and was excited to see me, asking if we could take a photo together. She said, "Chaya, I'm your fan." In fact, I recognized Daly the moment I saw her. Cecil still kept a photo of her at 16 in his desk drawer. The 16-year-old Daly looked quite similar to her in her 30s. "So this is the stray cat you were talking about?" Stroked Bailey and said, "This cat looks like the one I gave away before. I wonder if that person took good care of my little cat." I felt a pang of emotion, and suddenly asked her, "Who did you give a cat to?" Thady was so focused on the cat that she casually replied, "Just an old neighbor." A gentle breeze rustled my hair. I managed to smile. Perhaps Cecil never expected that. In the eyes of his white moonlight, he was just an old neighbor. As we were leaving, Ailey assured me, "Don't worry, Chaya. You'll take good care of it. You know I love kittens." After my divorce from Cecil, I had basically cut ties with the May family. But suddenly, May's grandmother called me. She said she was sick and wanted me to come visit her. May's grandmother had always treated me well. I definitely planned to go. I asked both. "Dear elder who is taking care of me is sick. Can you accompany me to see her?" A boss was eager to help. After retiring from the industry, he had become my assistant, practically sticking to me all the time. When I finally met May's grandmother, I found out that her illness was a ruse. The real reason for my visit was to see Cecil. May's grandmother said, "I know I can only trick you like this one." Cecil said he knows he was wrong. He wants to see you and hopes you can give him another chance. As she spoke, Cecil stood beside her, his gaze fixed intently on me. I completely ignored him and pulled a boss closer to introduce him to May's grandmother. "Grandma, I brought my boyfriend to see you today. His name is Abba." At this, Cecil reacted fiercely. "Impossible. You're lying to me." He tried to pull me, but a boss immediately stepped in front of me. At the same time, May's grandmother blocked Cecil. "Chaya, it's the grandmother's fault." As we left the May family, Cecil relentlessly chased after us. Suddenly, May's grandmother slapped him across the face and said, "You've wronged Chet. She's doing well now. Can't you just let her go?" The door to the May family slowly closed behind me. Once I walked through that door, no matter how much noise was inside, I could no longer hear it. It was a sunny day. A boss held my hand and asked, "Did you just say I'm your boyfriend?" I kept my gaze straight ahead, continuing to walk. "Nan," I responded. Baldric's mouth twisted into a grin. I knew it. One day, I will definitely succeed and rise to the top.